In the news now is an article that follows on an article that I did earlier on the city of Cape Town saying that they are going to be fining homeless people. Now, when you think of the logic of that, you will understand how disconnected they are from basic humanity. And this is mainstream in our political system at the moment. However, now they realize the error of their ways and they believe that they have fixed this. And in this article in News 24, our favorite New World Order publication, the headline reads, Cape Town could fine homeless people if they refuse shelter. So they believe that they are complying with the Constitution when they actually offer the person shelter and the person refuses it. Then they will fine them. Now, how are they supposed to pay this fine? How are they going to police this? I would love to see this. And the best is that the entire committee that dealt with this adopted this new idea unanimously. It shows you the abject incompetence of the people in local government in the city of Cape Town, the DA-run city of Cape Town at the moment. But let's get through this horror. The City of Cape Town Safety and Security Committee plans to fine homeless people who refuse shelter offered by the city. Now, this begs the question, are you not allowed to be homeless? Okay? And if the shelters that you are offered, if you're not happy with them, do you have the freedom to make a choice to just live out in nature? And this is the crux of the matter. And I've explained this in detail before in my Double O Days meetings, that the system was created by Amschel Rothschild to make sure that every person would need to be in his financial system to survive in the future that the governments of the world will create, because he could control those governments and monarchies. And a person found sleeping in a public place without permission will first be issued with a compliance notice. The proposed amendment, which falls under the Streets, Public Places and the Prevention of Noise Nuisances bylaw, is yet to be tabled before Council for final approval. Because from here it needs to go to the mayoral committee, after which it goes to the council for approval. So 2 more phases, and hopefully it'll be kicked out with the contempt it deserves. Homeless people found sleeping on the streets of Cape Town could be issued with fines if they refuse a reasonable offer of alternative shelter. Now, what is reasonable and what do they consider shelter? This is according to new and amended bylaws announced by the City of Cape Town Safety and Security Committee this week. Completely out of touch people. Chairperson of the committee, Mzwake Nkwavane, said the committee unanimously approved the new and amended bylaws in its monthly meeting on Wednesday. Whoopi Kaye. The changes to the bylaws are not final though, as they would need to go to the mayoral committee before they are tabled before the council for final approval, and hopefully there will be someone with a semblance of accumulation of brain cells sufficient for them to comprehend that you cannot fine homeless people, irrespective of what you believe with regards to being homeless or not, and the system that they are caught up in or not. You cannot fine homeless people. It's pointless making laws that you cannot enforce. I continue. The changes relating to the homeless people were made into the Streets, Public Places and the Prevention of Noise Nuisances bylaw. Nkwavane said bylaws are designed to help resolve complaints more effectively and mitigate risk to the city, individuals and landowners by ensuring necessary and ongoing enforcement actions are supported by legislation. Now, there are much better ways of dealing with homelessness. There's a difference between a vagrant and someone that is homeless, and loiterers and someone that is homeless. You can deal with it differently, but you see in this current system, there's no provision made for someone that chooses not to be in the formal housing sector. And you should have a right to do that. There's many places where people do have a right to do that. In many of the places under rural places under tribal rule, where there are chiefs and kings and princes and queens and princesses basically handing land to people, people can live there the way they want. Here in the city, you are told to live a certain way. So basically what's happening here is if you don't want to live the way the city council wants you to live, you will be ejected from the city. Now, this is where society and humanity starts to break down. And this is where you are literally putting labels onto people. This happened during the Second World War. This happened in the early 1900s with the Dompa system and many other things. And we need to remember what happened during those days because we are moving back in the same direction. The city's bylaw relating to streets, public places, and the prevention of noise and nuisance has been in existence since 2007 and aligns with similar pieces of legislation in other metropolitan municipalities around the country, Nkwavane added. According to Nkwavane, to ensure the prohibition is enforced humanely and in compliance with the Constitution, the bylaw has been amended to provide for the following. Now, he or she believes that it's going to be in compliance with the Constitution. But it will first have to be tested under the Constitution. They say here, first, a person found sleeping in a public place without authority will first be issued with a compliance notice. Now, what on earth does that mean? That person's just going to move to another place. All you're doing is you're trying to move them out of the city. Just admit it. Such a person only commits an offense if the person refuses a reasonable offer of alternative shelter. Yeah, like they've done before. Move people tens of kilometers away from where they would normally work or do whatever it is that they want to do, especially with the people that were relocated close to Melkbos Strand, more than 20 kilometers away from where they lived before, and put in a place in the middle of nowhere. Come on. You know, reality. Just face reality. Call it what it is and say you do not want anyone that's homeless in the metro. And just say we want you all to get out because this is what you're actually trying to do. A court may not sentence a guilty person to prison. It may only fine the person. How can they tell a court what to do? Do you understand the problem here? They are saying in a bylaw that a court may not sentence a guilty person to prison. It may only fine the person. These people, I don't know where they come from. They are not qualified to be there, and this is why we need to change the governance system drastically. If they cannot basically understand such simple fundamentals, they do not belong in any form or shape of governance whatsoever. So they are telling the courts what they may and may not do. It's laughable. Absolute joke. He further explained, therefore, any concerns about the impact of the amendments on persons living on the street should be considered together with the primary focus of the city to first offer social interventions before enforcement actions take place. Social intervention before enforcement. You should just use before we force the people to do something. Okay, because that's actually what it is. Let's not pussyfoot around like a cat in wet water. He added that the city has an obligation to make sure that its public open spaces and the city remains sustainable, that there is equality before the law, and that while it offers assistance to help people off the streets, bylaws are being applied to everybody at the same time. What a load of hogwash. I mean, I'm not sure that this person understands what they are saying. I don't think they have the cognizance to understand what they are actually saying. I quote further, the amendments to the bylaw focus on the enforcement of the provisions in the legislation and explicitly sets out the powers of the city's authorized officials while also providing for measures to prevent the abuse of those powers. So you give powers to officials and then you try and stop them from abusing those powers. I have seen people abused my whole life by police, by Metro Police, by various law enforcement officers, by various security companies. You are not going to stop. Who's going to police the law enforcement officials when they kick around someone that is homeless, when they beat him with batons? Because I've seen that many times. I've intervened many times. It is really sad when people support this kind of action, when humanity has gone to a point where these officials are elected into office again and again and again. And all I can tell you is the masses are coming for you. The masses are coming for you because you do not know what you are doing. Thank you very much. Till the next video.